Welcome back to Writing Done Right. Well, today we're going to introduce the software that I use for doing most of my cover designs, and that is a software package called GIMP, which is an acronym for GNU Image Manipulator Program. All right, so if you need to build a book cover, then you're going to need something that is a little bit more powerful than Windows Paint. And not that that's necessarily a bad program, it just doesn't have the functions and features that you need to do a book cover. But GIMP is a free and open source software package that will allow you to do all of the functionality that you need to do in order to create a wonderful design. Anything from layer properties and styles, dropping shadows, be careful with that please, a little overused at times, or all of the other styling elements. You can drop in your barcodes for your books in there, just all the different functions that you need. Now, developing a book cover does take a little bit of skill. We'll have some separate videos about how to do that on this channel, but today we just want to do a brief overview of the GIMP platform just to kind of show you what all is inside of here. Now, there are other free and open source applications that are going to be like it. If you're doing more of an image manipulation, like Photoshop type stuff, GIMP is going to be the package you want to do. If you're doing more drawing, like if you have a tablet where you can draw on and you're doing more of a drawing type animation, you actually want to use the package called Krita, which is also very similar to GIMP as well. Both of those packages are free and open source software, and they are all cross-platform, meaning whether you are on Mac or Windows or on Linux, you can install these applications and use them to develop your book covers. Now, we'll go ahead and jump out of the video from here and go right back onto the desktop, and we will introduce for you GIMP, how to use it, what you can do with it, and just some of the basic functions and features of it to help you along the way. This is not a comprehensive video. We're not going to be doing how to do a whole book cover. I just want to introduce you to some of the tools and functions and features that it has. Okay, so here we are on the GIMP webpage, which is gimp.org. Now, the latest version is 2.10, and you may have noticed if you're watching other videos, I switched computers. That's because my main production computer, I still run version 2.8 for a few little obscure reasons, and I just wanted to show you the latest version, and this computer always runs the latest versions of everything. So, of course, GIMP is cross-platform, as we mentioned. Whether you are using Mac, Windows, or Linux, you can download a copy of GIMP for it. So it will show you all the different methods of install. Of course, once again, it's detecting I'm on Linux, so it gives me all of the crazy Linux stuff that might be terrifying you right now. Don't be afraid of that. You can go ahead and just grab your versions for whatever. So over here is our Linux, over here is our Mac OS. So you can grab it directly or via a torrent. And here is your Windows platforms. So this is OS supports Windows 7 or over. Of course, if you are watching this on Windows 7, be aware that Windows 7 support is about to end, whether or not that matters to you. But you can head on over here and grab this application. Now, onto the program itself. Now, 2.10, depending on the installation, it might load up in a full screen like this. But there's also a multi-view mode, which kind of looks like this, that sometimes starts out as. I always like working inside of the single view like this because I just think it works a whole lot better. And so with this, let's just go ahead and just do a little bit of brief overview of the system itself. Of course, GIMP is just as full-featured as Photoshop is, so we couldn't, of course, cover anything and everything in one single video. I just want to make you a little bit familiar with some of the layout. Of course, we have the toolbars on the right, on the left, and you can drag these guys over on either direction based on the sizing that you would happen to need. You have the ability over here with these arrows here, you can configure various tabs. You can add tabs, including different things. Maybe if you want to do an undo history, you can go ahead and do this. Now, sometimes you might accidentally move these tabs around, so I like coming down and locking the tab once you have it set. That way you don't accidentally come in here and bump something around and mess up your configuration. So once I have everything set up the way I like, just exploring, adding the different tabs and the features, I love locking the tabs so we don't actually mess those up, because you will invariably accidentally bump those every now and again. Now, of course, we have all the different tools available that you'll expect. Your scaling tools, you have, perspective tools, all these different items. And then inside, depending on what you are looking at, you'll have different paintbrushes. Of course, we need to put a file on here before we can actually see anything showing up. So you can pull from a variety of different templates here as well. I'm just going to go with whatever the default is. What is it? It looks like an HD image here. Resolution is 300. So let's do a print or a screen resolution. Color space. The downside of GIMP is it does not generally support CMYK. It's possible to get it in with some plugins. If that's really important to you, Critter might be a better option. It's another application. But let's just go ahead and add this guy in here. So, of course, I don't have my brushes right down here. I'm not sure why. Let's go ahead and add a tab, and let's add our brushes. That way we have a brush tab as well. So over here now we can just select whatever our tool is, select whatever our brush is, and have at it. Of course, I'm not sure why I have a bright yellow color there. Probably something I was doing on this system. But there you go. You can see you have a variety of different brushes that you can use, including, I have no idea why, but a green pepper. I have no idea why. It's like the only odd, weird thing in there, but you got a green pepper. Anyway, you can get in here and add anything with the brushes, of course, paint tools. Let's just talk a little bit more about the user interface. Now, as far as your, first, let's go ahead and look at the interface itself. If you head over to, if you head on over to View, you'll be able to see the different things that we have. There's color management. I'm looking for our, let's go into our preferences. They changed some of these things in 2.10 versus 2.8. So some of those you used to be able to change from the menu, and everything's all in this nice preference panel now. So as far as your theming, if you want to go with a basic light theme, we have a basic dark theme here as well you can pick from. So you can go with a variety of different theming options. We have a dark, a gray, a light, and a system is going to pull from whatever your system colors happen to be. With my current system theme, I love the theme, just not for GIMP. So you can see I don't really like that. I usually run GIMP on a dark theme that you have there as well. As far as your icons, we have color, we have legacy, we have symbolic, and we have symbolic inverted. So of course I'm going to use the symbolic for the dark theme so I can see what everything is. So you can just basically organize it the way that you want. The other thing that you might want to do is you might want to mess around with your input devices and keyboard shortcuts. So your keyboard shortcuts, this is awesome because you can find anything. So for example, one thing I use a lot for my web design business, although not as much in authoring, is scaling an image very quickly. So if we head on over to our image and hit scale image, you'll see there's not a shortcut for it, but that's something I use a lot in web design. So I can just come over here and I can find my, basically I want to find my, my key, just can search for it. So scale image, and I'm just going to set it to the same thing it is in Photoshop, Control Alt and I, save that. And once we have went ahead and made that change, I can come over down here and you'll see that now I have Control Alt and I for scaling our image. So that's how you can adjust your various keyboard shortcuts. Just whatever you're looking for in the menu. Another one I oftentimes do is snap to grid. So I like adjusting something for snap to grid. I like Control Alt Q. Excuse me, Shift Control Q is a nice one, not used for anything else. Easy to hit when I'm doing something. I can snap to grid and unsnap to grid just by hitting that quick sequence. You can do a similar thing for any other keyboard shortcut that you happen to want. So you can really lay this out any way you really want to see. Here's basic textures. Let's go ahead and move that texture down to there. I prefer that one down on the bottom. See our fonts are over here. And where are our layers at? I think what happened is I had my toolbars. I got my toolbars mixed around, I think is what I did. But anyway, just like basic Photoshop, you can drag your individual layers down over here. you do have that option to snap to grid, snap to guide. Snap to guides is already set up. Snap to grids, that's the one we set the hotkey for. So, I can just go ahead and toggle that with the keys really quick, and you'll see it'll do that. Now, as far as doing anything, so if I wanted to do, for example, any paintbrushing type stuff, I could go ahead and grab this and make any changes to the size, aspect ratios. I can change the opacities. So the whole variety of things that you can do. Now, the one area that some people will also criticize this one for, that again, Critisol's GIMP does not, is non-destructive layer properties. Of course, in Photoshop, if I wanted to go ahead, let's go ahead and add a new layer, and just go ahead and add a new layer and kill our current background layer. Let's just go ahead and do that. All right, so if I want to come over here and, for example, do some text with some drop shadows, let's first start by using our paintbrush, just making this guy white so I can see what's going on here. And let's go with a slightly less blinding color there. So this is some text. Now, what GIMP is going to do better than Krita is the ability to manage and manipulate your text a little bit more. A lot easier to make some adjustments to these. Looks like I do have open sans. There we are. So there's a text layer that we can do. Now, if you wanted to go ahead and do some effects like drop shadows, that's kind of the thing I wanted to show you. Let's go ahead and make it a little bit more obnoxious blue so you can see how the drop shadows is going to work. Under our filters, light and shadow, drop shadow. Now, this is something where Photoshop/Krita is going to do a little bit better. I've actually never really cared as much. So what it's going to do, let me go ahead and increase the opacity. You can adjust your blur radius. And so you can see that we have not actually applied anything. This is how good this is at being able to preview what's going on here. Okay, let's just go ahead and use that, say okay on that. You'll notice here that what it ends up doing is it adds the text, it adds that right to the layer itself. Now, older versions will add the shadow as a separate layer individually. So what you need to do then, if you want to go ahead and make some adjustments to the text, you can either create a new layer or you can edit this one. And if you edit the layer, it does get rid of the text that you had. So you can go ahead and say, I wanted to intentionally do a spelling error. Of course, you can just hit the Control F, put it right back. So I don't really see that as a huge disadvantage to the system, but it doesn't give you the same layer properties that you had. So be aware of that limitation if you're used to Photoshop and you need that function. You can get around all of those. It's just something that this one does a little bit different. So just be aware of that. So what I do love about GIMP though is the ability to completely control your workflow, your station, your hotkeys, everything, creating templates and things like that. So this is really the application that I use to do all my book covers on. Although I will be doing some things in Krita sometime soon for a sci-fi novel where I need to do some drawing with a Wacom tablet. So we'll do a little bit of, maybe I'll display a video with that when I get to it. But GIMP is absolutely an awesome application. I highly recommend using it and learning how to use it. You can do all your book covers right inside of here. You can add your ISBNs to this. You can, do anything else that you need. Export your files for your distribution networks, and you will be away with your work. So anyway, that is GIMP. I hope you enjoyed this brief overview, and we will definitely be in here a whole lot more, teaching you a lot more details about how to actually do a book cover down the road. So thanks for coming along on this Writing Done Right video, where we will teach you how to get your writing done right.